Hello everyone and welcome to a special Blood Red podcast from the Wanda Metropolitano in the heart of Madrid. I'm with Ian Doyle, my colleague, the chief LFC writer of the Liverpool Echo, and Joel Rabinowitz of Liverpool.com, here to preview Liverpool's Champions League clash, the last 16 tie against Atletico Madrid tomorrow night. Press conference is going to begin in round about an hour and a half or so with Jurgen Klopp and Trent Alexander-Arnold previewing tomorrow's game before Diego Simeome and an Atletico Madrid player do the same. Doyle, I'll start with you. I mean, how are you, Liverpool obviously returning to the scene of the 6th European Cup triumph back on June the 1st. It's going to be a little bit different this time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be a bit colder.
Well, yeah.
It's not exactly cold, it's a lot warmer than it is back in England, but it's certainly nowhere near as hot as it was when we were here in June. But yeah, I think Jurgen Klopp spoke after the win against Norwich on Saturday. He was asked about, what's it going to be like going back there? Will the players kind of be distracted by the fact this is where they won the European Cup in, as you say, in June last summer? And he basically said, no, look, let's face it, this is always going to be a place where we're going to have a lot of happy memories. He regarded it as his greatest night, certainly in terms of his managerial career, and you'd have to agree with that. And probably the greatest night for nearly all of the players who were playing. But he says, we'll have good memories, we'll come in here, we'll be reminded of it, but we've got a job to do here. And I don't think Liverpool aren't playing the stadium, are they? They're playing Atletico Madrid. It's going to be a completely different atmosphere. I mean, what was it, 20, 30,000 Liverpool fans were inside the stadium last time. There's not going to be anywhere near that many this time. There'll probably be 50 to 55,000 Atletico Madrid fans. So, it's going to be completely different. Other than the bricks and the mortar, everything else will be, not the same.
Yeah, Joel, I mean, Jordan Henderson said exactly that, what Doyley's just said there on Saturday after Norwich. As did Joe Gomez. Henderson said it's business as usual and they're not actually thinking about, obviously, June the 1st against Tottenham will always have special memories for this entire squad, but this is going to be a completely different game. It's not one where they're going to be looking back and thinking, oh, do you remember that night? It's going to be one where they've got to dig in and fight, and they're coming up against a really difficult Atletico side.
Definitely, yeah. They've taken every single team they've faced this season on their own merits, whether that's Norwich or Man City, and that'll be no different tomorrow night, I'm sure. Atletico's recent form has not been great. They've not been scoring a lot of goals. They've also not been conceding a lot of goals as well. It's been that kind of season. I think they've only scored, it's only around 20-something goals.
25,
I think they've conceded 15, which is the same as Liverpool. So you'd expect it to be a really tight game. Liverpool have got a lot better over the years at being patient in these kind of games when they're playing teams that are very well organised, tough to break down, which is what Simeone's teams have always been renowned for. So it'll be a really interesting challenge tactically. Interesting as well in terms of what he does with the midfield. I think that's probably the obvious kind of question around selection. I thought Keita did quite well against Norwich. Perhaps less so on the ball, but defensively I thought he was really good. I think probably expected Fabinho to start that one, and I would have expected him to start. I probably still do expect him to start tomorrow. I think the front three and the back five, including the goalkeeper, have picked themselves, but he's got a bit of a dilemma there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Atletico Madrid situation at the moment, and as you say, they don't score too many, but don't concede too many. But it looks like João Felix, the £113 million summer signing from Benfica, he's going to be out. Diego Costa's out. Alvaro Morata's a doubt. They've got a couple of other injuries. Kieran Trippier's going to miss out. So I think this is a chance for Liverpool to come here and really take the bull by the horns.
It is, yeah, and I think you kind of expect Liverpool to find a way to score in any game that they're playing at the moment. I think if Liverpool do come here and get an away goal, coming back to Anfield, the tie obviously won't be done whatever happens tomorrow night in the first leg, but I think if they can get that away goal, that'll put them in such a strong position. And Atletico won't make it easy. Liverpool have played a lot of teams who kind of set up to frustrate and kind of go two banks of four. I think that's what we'll see tomorrow night. The other interesting player they've brought back as well is Carrasco, who's kind of done 2 years stint in China, but he played in the Champions League final and scored for them before, so he's another one to watch out for. But like you said, they're not going to be kind of full strength like they usually would.
Now, Doyley, if Liverpool were to play the Champions League final tomorrow night,
yes,
what would be your Liverpool team?
Are they playing Atletico Madrid in the final?
Well, yeah.
The only question mark's over the midfield, isn't it? I mean, personally, I think it'll be Fabinho, Henderson, and Wijnaldum.
So it's a chance then for Jurgen Klopp to actually play his strongest 11, if you like, because they haven't featured at all season. So you're expected to be Joe Gomez and Virgil van Dijk at centre back, and then that midfield three, as you say. So, if he does pick that favoured 11, as you say, how do you think they might cope against the team as rugged and as battle hardened as you like as Atletico?
I think, as Joel said, Liverpool are battle hard now. I mean, you look at some of the games they've had this season. Even Norwich on Saturday. Norwich didn't, they made it tough for Liverpool. They knew exactly what they were going to do. They hadn't conceded a lot of goals in the previous, I think, 4 or 5 games. And Atletico Madrid have hardly conceded any this season. I think it's gone up to 17 now. I think they drew 2-2 with Valencia on Friday. So, but even getting through the Champions League group stage, it was all a bit of a scrap for them. I mean, there's no doubt that they lost Griezmann, didn't they? And that was a massive blow for them. They haven't properly replaced him. But a lot of injury problems up front, as you touched on. I know Diego Costa, I think he trained today. I think I saw pictures of him training. Whether or not he's ready for the game, I don't know. Yeah. But if he is, then we know what a nuisance value he is. But Morata, he was on the bench, I think, against Valencia. So if they're absolutely desperate for a goal, I think Atletico will have options, but I don't think they're actually that fussed about scoring in this game. They won't want to concede an away goal. And it's interesting that certainly European games over the past 5 or 6 years have changed, whereby 0-0 away from home was always regarded as a good result. Now it's not, because you didn't get the away goal. So I think Liverpool will go out to try and score a goal. I think there's been, interestingly, I think over the last couple of years there's not been many games where they've played away first. I think Porto was one in 2017-18, and of course Barcelona, they lost 3-0. I'm not saying Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, but Liverpool's record, away from home, I think they've lost 7 of the last 13 away in Europe. So the only game they've lost, the first team have lost this season was at Napoli, and that was the only game where they failed to score. So the Champions League does offer something different, a different kind of test. Atletico will be unlike anything else they've faced this season, or probably even last season. It's the first time Klopp will come up against Simeone, and I know he's got a lot of appreciation for him. You've got a lot of time for him. And will there be a game where there have been 2 so animated managers on the touchline?
Well, I was going to ask about that next. Actually, it's an interesting one, isn't it, when you think of Jurgen Klopp and Diego Simeone, their respective reputations over the last 5 years or so in Europe. 2 fantastic managers, both with a bit of fire in the belly, shall we say. It's going to be an interesting subplot, isn't it, to the game, the fact that those 2 are coming head to head in the technical area.
I mean, there's no doubt that in terms of tactics, Simeone does have a certain style. We know how his team plays. As we mentioned, the rugged, the defensive. They'll look to strike on the counter attack, look at set pieces. So in some ways, a little bit like Liverpool in some senses. But Liverpool are a better team all round. I think Liverpool have moved on a level to what Atletico were a couple of years ago. I mean, Atletico in Europe in the last in the 2010s has been amazing. They've got to Europa League finals. They've got to 2 Champions League finals. They're always there or thereabouts. I think it was last season. I think they got knocked out in the group stage. I think did they? I think so. So. There has been a slight sense of decline here. They've certainly struggled in La Liga comparatively compared to recent years. They're nowhere near Barcelona and Real Madrid in terms of both points and the actual level of performance. So Liverpool will know this will be a difficult game, but it's not as difficult as it would have been, say, about 18 months or 2 years ago.
Now, Joe Gomez said after the Norwich game on Saturday that Liverpool are taking the underdog mentality into this game, but when you think of them being in back-to-back finals, they're now the reigning champions of Europe, looking to become just the second team to defend the European Cup in its current guise alongside Real Madrid. They're not the underdogs at all, are they, anymore? They are now the best team in the world. But it's interesting that Gomez says that that's what the mentality is like, inside the squad at the moment.
It's interesting, yeah. They definitely aren't the underdogs at all. They're not the underdogs in any game they go into at the moment. It's kind of been an interesting theme throughout the whole season, really. Since winning that Champions League, they've gone into every game with that tag of being European champions, which is obviously a scalp for any team that wants to try and beat them. And then since becoming world champions as well, and the points gap that they've got at the top of the league, Liverpool was a prestige in sort of trying to be the team to beat Liverpool, which nobody's done in the league so far. Obviously Napoli, the only ones managed it in the Champions League. But yeah, I think Liverpool's mentality has been, Klopp's spoken about it constantly, called the mentality giants and everything, but I think what's been most impressive about the last 2 years of the development of a team is that they've now, Ian alluded to it, but they've evolved to the point where they can sort of cope with any challenge. You go back to the start of Klopp's reign in the Champions League and you had kind of those explosive games, and they beat Porto 5-0 and they played on a counter-attack, enthralling attacking football, and you still see flashes of that now, but it's more adaptable to any challenge that you saw against Norwich, the patience they had to show there against a team who was kind of set up to stop them having any kind of space. And in the past, you've seen Liverpool sort of panic in those scenarios, resorting to kind of shooting from stupid places, and they don't do that anymore because they just believe that it will come. So they are better equipped than they ever have been. And it's interesting, the complexion of the season. It was around this time they had Bayern, didn't they, last season, and the Champions League was kind of very much on the back burner for a lot of the season. That Bayern Munich win at the Allianz sort of brought the European campaign to life. And again, it's been kind of similar this season. The whole focus has just been on the league because of how brilliantly Liverpool have been doing, and they got through the group stage, but it wasn't kind of an event in itself because everyone expected Liverpool to get through the group, whereas I think now, back into the knockouts again, it's a big name in Atletico Madrid. You think that the European campaign will come back into focus again, and they'll want to win it for sure.
And you mentioned there about obviously Liverpool being adaptable now to any task that's in front of them. Do you think it could be a case of them deploying the counter-attack tomorrow night with the pace of Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane, who we expect to return to that front three?
I think so. It's interesting, given obviously it's at home for Atletico. I think you'd expect them to have spells of possession. I still think Liverpool will probably look to dominate the game, and the onus will be on them to create chances. I still think, on balance, Atletico will probably be more likely to play on the counter-attack than Liverpool are. I think one of the really interesting things we've seen this season is Liverpool's ability to turn opposition corners into opportunities to score themselves. That's definitely something to keep an eye on. They've done that in Europe as well. I think I saw a stat the other day that they've only conceded one goal, which is against Genk from a corner all season in all competitions, and they've definitely scored more than one goal from counter-attacking from corners. So it's definitely something Liverpool got in their armoury, and you'd expect sort of Atletico to use set pieces as one of their sort of main routes towards goal, but we've seen Liverpool don't tend to concede from them, and if they do kind of clear the first ball, they're absolutely deadly on the counter-attack. So I would expect that to be one of the most powerful weapons tomorrow.
Doyle, then, just to finish up, I'm going to ask you for a prediction. How do you think it's going to go? Scoreline and general overview of the game.
Just pin it on me, why don't you?
Yeah, well, I'll ask Joel, but we'll come to this bit.
I think it's Atletico. It's a massive deal for them, because they're not going to win La Liga. They're not anywhere near. I think I'm right in saying they got knocked out. They're not in the Spanish Cup, the Copa del Rey. So this is the only thing they've got really left to play for, apart from fourth place, which they probably will get. Just playing the way that they have been this season. So, and I think it's a big game for Simeone as well. He'll love to test himself against Klopp. I mean, the only time that I can think of recently where they faced each other was in the Audi Cup in 2017, where they drew 1-1 and Atletico won on penalties, and Klopp wasn't very happy after the game with some of the way that the Atletico treated the game, like it was a massively competitive match. And that's what Simeone teams are like in friendlies. So you can imagine what it's going to be like tomorrow night. They'll be massively up for it. The crowd will be up for it. It won't be easy for Liverpool. Having said that, Liverpool are, the champions of Europe. They're the champions of the world. They're going to win the Premier League by about 15 million points. So the interesting thing for me is that Liverpool, our running theme recently has been Liverpool have just done enough to win games. And when the big games come around, and we're talking, you look at Leicester away, you look at Salzburg away, look at, to a certain extent, Tottenham for 60 minutes, United for about an hour. When they've needed to play well, they've played well. And I think they've got that in them. They know when to turn it on and when they don't have to turn it on. I think they will have to, certainly for the most part, tomorrow night. And with that, I think the only thing that will be a bad result for Liverpool is if Atletico score twice. And I can't see that happening. I think 2-1 Liverpool or 1-0.
Joel?
I was going to say 1-1 as well. Yeah.
Score draw?
That's what I'm going with. Yeah, I think so.
Well, there you have it. Stay tuned to the Blood Red channel for all the latest Jurgen Klopp's press conference alongside Trent Alexander-Arnold. That'll be on YouTube in the next couple of hours, so stay tuned for that.